Be excellent to each other and party on. We're back for another Legacy League, and today we're playing blue-black tempo with a Kaito finish. This is the pre-ban blue-black tempo list. We've just taken out Frog, and we've replaced it with a few additional spells like Thoughtseize. We have 3 of those, and we have a Dismember to be able to deal with opposing creatures. Dismember wasn't that great against Frog because they could just pitch their hand and then they'd have a giant frog and you'd be down a card. So we have Tamiyo and Nethergoyf that come out turn 1 potentially and just start applying pressure. And we have the usual Force, Daze, Wasteland, Disruptive Shell. Importantly, we do have 2 Nile Spell Bombs main deck. This not only helps buff Nethergoyf, but this is very vital because blue-black Reanimator may seem like it's dead with the death of Froginator. You're not going to hear that anymore, but the deck is not dead. It's only resting. It is coming back, and we're already seeing it being the top deck in the challenge finishes. So even though we may not run into it too much in the leagues, I do want to be prepared when we do, because it is a force to be reckoned with. We have 4 Orcish Bowmasters and a Brazen Borrower in addition to those, and 2 Murktides at the top end. These are very good against Eldrazi, and those will enable us to ninjutsu in Kaito, Bane of Nightmares. If you watched my channel before, you know that I'm very high on this card. I consider it to be a new, better Jace the Mind Sculptor because it's uncounterable and it immediately generates value. The problem with Jace is you invest 4 mana and they just daze it or they just pyroblast it and you don't get any value. But with Kaito, you're always going to get some value because it comes in off of a creature as an ability, not as a spell that's cast, and then you can immediately get some value from it, even if they're able to attack it and kill it. And Kaito does have, like all good planeswalkers, a means of protecting himself. So does Tamiyo, of course. So we're going to hopefully get some planeswalker victories. We're going to get some combat victories, and we're going to disrupt the living heck out of a whole lot of combo decks. Let's look at the sideboard. We've got 4 Consigned Memories for combo decks and Eldrazi. We also have a Harbinger of the Seas for Eldrazi primarily, but this is also really good against 4-color control lists. We have an additional Brazen Borrower in the sideboard. This card is just so flexible. You can bring it in pretty much any matchup where they have permanents. We have 3 Hydroblasts out of respect for red decks. A lot of blue-black tempo lists only play 1 Hydroblast, but I think 3 is totally justified when you've got Moonstomping and you've got all these other decks out there. I've got a Force of Negation for dealing with turn 0 combo, Toxic Deluge for creature strategies like Nadu strategies, 2 Grafdigger's Cage. We don't need 3 because we have the main deck Nile Spell Bombs. And we've got an Engineered Explosives. This is really good against Chalice decks. This is good against Construct decks. And we got to Shoot the Sheriff. It's just like an additional removal spell in a creature-heavy matchup. And this will hit pretty much any creature, even creatures that Fatal Push won't hit. So if we suspect Triumph of St. Catherine or something like that, we can just swap out one of our Fatal Pushes for Shoot the Sheriff. This should be a fun, interactive league. Hopefully we're going to shred some combo decks. Hopefully we're going to go up against some fair decks and win against those too. And it'll be a fantastic time. Leave comments with timestamps if you notice me making play errors or if you have questions about decisions I make. I usually catch my punts, but I can't catch punts if I don't realize they're punts. So please point those out. That's a benefit to not only me, who is trying to be excellent and get better at the game, but it's also a benefit to everyone else reading the comments. See you in round 1. Round 1, we're up against a player who may very well be playing a zoo type list or like the Ocelot Pride list, which is kind of scary considering we are a slower list that's trying to apply pressure, and that they do have inevitability if the game continues. Let's take a look at this hand. These are slow cards. I don't think we keep this. Like, I like the Ponder, I like the Cantrips, I like the Orcish Bowmaster, but like Murktide is several turns away. This feels a lot better. I think we can probably put back Dismember, and then we have Nile Spellbomb just in case they're a graveyard strategy. The one risk is that they are a Wasteland strategy, and we open Nile Spellbomb, and then they waste us. I think we take that risk. I'm going to put back Dismember. I mean, that could be a mistake if they're a creature strategy, but we do have Fatal Push out there. You know, one option I have is to just now Spellbomb. I don't want to daze my initial land back to hand anyway, but I do want to get this now Spellbomb out. And if they waste my Wasteland, I really don't care. I just, we don't need the colored mana, so I'm just going to play conservatively in this regard. This will also hide what our deck does. They can probably presume that our deck plays black, but that's the extent to which they can reasonably induce. I want to be very pedantic and point out that induce is the correct term, or abduce, not deduce. All right. So an island strategy. I like just holding up Bowmasters here and holding up Now Spellbomb activation, and we can look for a land later. If they waste us, that'll be sad. But we can at least cantrip through this Now Spellbomb and hopefully find a land. Okay, they decided to do this. Maybe they have a daze. Maybe they don't, and we just get to live the dream here. If they have a daze, we have a daze. They daze. I'm going to daze back. I want to do damage to you. I am playing a tempo deck. Do you have a force? All right, we're in. We're living the Bowmaster dream. Daze protected. My heart goes out to my opponent. This has happened to me so many times. I thought I was safe. And maybe they find 2 removal spells, and this isn't that big of a deal. But maybe they don't, and this is a huge deal, and this is the game. A lot of the complaints around Orcish Bowmasters when it was printed were from people that hadn't necessarily yet gotten practice with the play patterns, but you don't hear that as much now because Bowmasters is a fair card. It's just a very powerful card. And it forces you to use the most powerful card in Legacy other than Ancient Tomb. I do think Ancient Tomb is more powerful than Brainstorm. It forces you to use it in a way that historically people haven't had to use it. So there was just like a big uproar when it was printed, like, oh no, like why can't I just Brainstorm in peace? All right, they have 7 cards in hand. They're redeploying their island in the face of our wasteland, which makes sense. Island not famous for having removal options. Wow, they're taking more damage. They must be in a very desperate situation here. I would not freak out if they banned Bowmasters at some point, but I would still think it was because people were just whiny and not because Bowmasters is an overpowered card. And you can say the same thing about Nadu. Maybe Nadu isn't overpowered, but I will continue to be whiny about Nadu. All right. Their life total is fading fast. They're about to take 6. I think at this point, it makes sense to cantrip for Force of Will. We have a pitch to Force of Will. We have the win on the table. We just need to swing a couple times. They did shuffle their Brainstorm, or their Ponder. Yeah, I'm going to look for more dazes and forces. Okay, that works. I'm going to, I guess, take 2 forces. I mean, we're going to have to draw through the Fatal Push eventually. But we have Daze Protected Force on their interaction. We will be able to cantrip through this Nile Spellbomb and potentially shut off the path to Murktide if they're playing Murktide. Okay, they are passing, it looks like, which is very good for us. We now have just 1 force up, unfortunately, because we know the top card is a Fatal Push. This is Brazen Borrower. It's just going to get forced. They're just taking it. Wow, okay. They are fetching to 2 sewers. Just trying to get some selection. They could be a combo deck, and we you know, if they just reanimated Atraxa or something like that, then we could still lose. They do have 8 cards in hand. They won't be able to reanimate Atraxa, but they might be able to Entomb Animate Dead, Force of Will, back up. Please Ponder. Okay, they're just committing suicide here. All right, and obligatory note about self-harm. Call a hotline if you're feeling any of that stuff, and hopefully YouTube doesn't demonetize this video because of that. Okay, so I think we can probably take out Nile Spellbomb. You know, they could be Reanimator, but I don't know. I kind of think we leave it in because it does buff our Nethergoyfs. I think we can take out some Dazes on the draw. They're a Daze deck themselves. What will we bring in Daze's place? I think Brazen Borrower might be reasonable to bring in. I think I'm just going to swap 1 days for 1 Brazen Borrower. I don't know enough to make any other decisions, but generally, like against blue decks, Brazen Borrower is good because there's a good chance that they're playing Murktide. And I just want to emphasize, I don't want to be cavalier about that term that I just said. Like I've lost several friends to that as a person who's gone through life. So I hope that sorry to cast a pall over the this stream. You're probably just watching this while you're eating lunch, and you don't want to be thinking about that stuff. I'll try not to use that term in the future, just in case. Okay, this hand has Tamiyo. It has Daze. It has Wasteland. I think it's reasonable. Keep. I mean, it's a 4-lander. 4-lander with Tamiyo, but if they remove Tamiyo, we're literally doing nothing. I'm going to mulligan this. This hand has Nethergoyf, double Bowmasters. I think we just put back Kaito. He's the farthest from useful. I love Kaito. I wish I could play 2 in this deck, but I think it's optimal to play 1. I think if you're playing Baleful Strix, like doing the 4 Strix thing, then that makes more sense. But I don't think it makes sense to have 4 in another Nethergoyf deck. I think we probably just go ahead and ponder, and that is a sign of weakness. That is going to tell them that we don't have a lot going on. Because we're on the draw, and we have to react more to what they're doing. Okay, this is fine. I like the Force now, and then we have Swamp and Thoughtseize. And next turn, we can potentially, Force with Bowmaster back up. Or if they just waste us, we can at least drop a Nethergoyf and start Thoughtseizing them. Yeah, I'm going to leave these cards the exact sequence they're in right now. And we do want to be careful about forcing into a Daze, but like I'm going to force an Entomb if they do Instep Entomb. Okay, looks like they're probably just surveilling here, which is good because we want lands that we can wasteland. Their island opening last game, like maybe that locked them out of some of their plays, but we'd rather them play lands that we can wasteland. Okay, just the naked ponder into, could they have kept like a 1-lander 2 games in a row? Yeah, I almost never force, like that would be tempting, but that would actually give them like a surveil trigger and everything if they were to have a Daze. The good news is, well, we're not necessarily out of the... Okay, good. We're not going to get wasted. That's the real thing I was worried about here. So now I am going to... See, I'm drawing Swamp, so I can't Thoughtseize yet. I think I'm just going to drop the Nethergoyf, and then I hold up Interaction. Because, like, we're not going to live the Bowmaster dream 2 games in a row. Like, our opponent's going to be very, very cognizant of Bowmasters after having been soloed by Bowmaster's previous game. By the way, if you are in Dallas, there is a Hunter Burton Memorial Open happening, and I strongly encourage you to come. It's in the memory of a very prolific, competitive Magic the Gathering player who took his own life, and it's a prevention event and awareness event, and the proceeds go to charity that help. So like I strongly encourage you to participate if you're able to come to Dallas. I think it's in like March this year, but I go every year and it's a blast. Super chill people. I think we open Thoughtseize here just to see what's in their hand, and then we can potentially brainstorm. I don't want to brainstorm yet because I don't want to get caught in a Daze. And I want to make sure that we have our interaction up. Like I don't want to brainstorm out of blue. Okay, so there's show and tell list. This explains a lot. So we take the show and tell. Vesuvian Drifter, famously mediocre in my experience. Like I think this card's not good. We also have a Fatal Push for it. I think if we brainstorm here, there's a decent chance they just Daze it. But if they Daze it, it does grow but then we are off if they rip a show and tell. So I'm definitely taking show and tell here. And I think we're just crunching for 1 and we're passing. This is an extremely passive start, but yeah, like their life total is not that big a deal. Like we just need to keep them from getting their monster into play. And I don't want to tap off of Daze protection because we know they have Daze. So we just have to wait till we naturally draw a land and then we can start doing stuff. Okay, they're getting a basic, which is Disciplined. Their hand is completely mono blue. Ancient Tomb. This is fine. They could have, just some crazy card on the top, but I'm not going to... Yeah, I'm just going to accept that that's a possibility. They did not use the ability, which is usually the case. I think they only have like 8, maybe 10 monsters in their entire deck. So the likelihood of them actually finding like an Emrakul or a Gristlebrand is low. Okay, let's see what we draw here. Ponder is great. I kind of want to brainstorm here because I want to buff Nethergoyf, so at least I can like threaten to kill Vesuvian Drifter. And if we find like a card we can cantrip through, that's great. But I want to get a land in our graveyard. So let's go ahead and try to do this. Okay, we got the land. We got another Thoughtseize, which I think is great. I think we crack, then we push, and then we still have Force Mana up. I think Murktide is a blue card. Thoughtseize is fine. Like, I don't want to pitch any of these cards. These are great, but I do need to put some back. I think I'm going to put back a Bowmasters, even though it's really good here, because we already have a win con on the table in Nethergoyf. And I think I put back Murktide because, it does cannibalize the graveyard. Even though it is a pitch to force, it's just less flexible. So I'm going to go ahead and fetch here. And we're going to see whether they want to burn that daze. I'm going to keep this up. There is the option of Thoughtseizing them and taking the daze, but I think Thoughtseize will be good in a subsequent turn. And I should have done that off of... I should have kept this up. They are brainstorming in response, it looks like. Oh, they're dazing? Okay, well, I'm going to pay for daze. I don't really care if they ultimately win this battle. I'm not going to burn my force for it. I think maybe they just wanted to get a Surveil trigger. They have a blue floating. They double daze it. That's okay. I'm not going to pay for it. I'm going to come in for a hug and see if they block. Their creature is flying, so there's no reason to hold back. Okay. And they may hold back. Like, there's no reason for them to hold back. It's just a 3/4. I need to get a creature in my graveyard. They took the damage, so that was a good attack. They're at 12. All right. So they burned 2 dazes. They do have Borrower, and they have one unknown. They are using their Ancient Tomb as well, so they are doing a lot of damage to themselves. They really should have blocked that, in my humble opinion. There was no way that I could have gotten rid of their creature. Okay. If they found a show and tell, we're going to force. They still have likely 2 Borrowers in hand. If they brainstorm, they can brainstorm Emrakul on top, so I do need to force a brainstorm, unfortunately. Because if they get Emrakul on top, we're pretty dead. Okay, let's see whether we're dead. It would be the first time. Actually, yeah, I think it would literally be the first time Vesuvian Drifter has ever actually, killed me. And they're choosing to attack, which I think is a big mistake. Like, they need to hold back. Currently, this is not winning in combat. Okay. Borrower is great because we can bounce Vesuvian Drifter if protection. So we can... actually, it would have, I think, protection from instance by the time the ability had resolved and we were able to target it. I think the simple thing to do is go ahead and Thoughtseize them now and see what they're working with. They may borrow in response. Okay. I think we just take the Emrakul. The reason is a single brainstorm puts this back on top and we're dead. We don't have an immediate answer to the other creature. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I don't really care about them borrowing stuff back to my hand. They are taking damage when they do that. And I can easily redeploy. We did shuffle, so there is a possibility that they top okay. If they had gotten a what's it called? I think we hold up and we can just use Bowmaster here to ping them or to ping. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. We don't expect them to have days this turn. If they do find Gristlebrand off the top, we can Bowmaster in response, and that will kill them. This is kind of a clinch because, okay, they binned an island, so now they're getting a second look off Drifter. And force is not going to interact. If they find Emrakul, we are still dead. They didn't use it. Okay, good. All right, we just take this damage. I think I am going to bring out the Bowmaster end step. It may precipitate like a brainstorm, but then we can kind of plan around that. We can just bounce the Drifter out of play, so that way we don't have to worry about them Emrakuling us. Okay, we're doing some damage. They are not dead on board, but they are not going to be able to tap their Ancient Tomb anymore. Another Nethergoyf, not really necessary. Okay, they are going to use their ability. I guess it's always used. Okay, they chose not to use it. Coming in for a hug. They're at 2. They can't tap this. I think we just won. I'm trying to think of what could happen. I think the safest thing is to bounce this out of play when the trigger goes on the stack. Because that way it'll already be combat, and then we don't have to worry about them replaying it and getting a trigger. And we have force to protect that. They would need to... Oh. Yeah, that's not a big deal. I'll let that happen. They said, LOL, good game. Good games to you too, Der Vuk. However your name is pronounced. Hopefully that didn't get me demonetized saying it. Okay, cool. Let's go to the next one. All right. Round 2. We're 1-0. Up against an unknown opponent. I don't think we put back hands like this. Now Spellbomb could be just insane. A lot of graveyard strategies out there. Prismatic Vista. Not a good sign for us, unfortunately. It probably means they're playing Jeskai. Tamio. It's fine. Good news is we're unlikely to get wasted by a Prismatic Vista deck. Days. Pretty decent rip. Options. 1. We can just drop our own Tamio. I think that's probably the best option. Dummer said, thanks for streaming sometimes. Dummer says, I am new to Legacy and learned a lot from you. That is what I like to hear. That's what it's all about. Learning. Sharing insight with one another. I feel very strongly that that is like the meaning of life, is to learn, to improve, to reach your full potential. Achievement. So we're just Tommy-Oing here. There's a good chance they plow it, which is okay. Nethergoyf is the important card because that is what's going to pressure their... I will daze a Brainstorm probably here if they attempt to flipper. If they're just activating clues, that is bad for us, but it's even worse if Tamio is taking up and we have a Nethergoyf that does nothing. Is an 0-1 effectively. That's the current situation. So we're going to have to ponder for a land here. Yeah, pondering for a land. Okay, Wasteland, not great. That's not the land we're looking for. Bowmaster's really good in the matchup, actually. And castable. I mean, as much as I'm as reluctant as I am to keep this, I do think this is a keep because we can now spell bomb and then we can crack it and draw through. Gosh, Wasteland is so dead. Bowmasters is our best card in the matchup, but I genuinely think we need a different land. No, I don't want to give up the sweet land drop. I don't want to give it up. So we're going to make a Bowmaster sandwich here, and we will take our Wasteland, and we'll just play it out, and we're going to just start gradually working through these now spell bombs. We have to be patient, even though like our opponent hasn't really presented much of a clock. Tamio is just giving them inevitability. This is a bad matchup, by the way. Look at their basic lands. Look at our Wasteland. They may even have back to basics in their deck. Or, as I like to say, back to basics, break six, because this is backbreaking. At least against our deck. We do have basics. We can go get them. And we can operate on little mana. But with our current mana configuration, it's not a good feel. Okay, they're just cracking. That makes sense. They have put them in days range. But they're if they're a frequent enjoyer of the Be Excellent channel, they may be very careful around days. Because I am presenting days type vibes. Okay, I'm just going to get my land. Yeah. And I will get rid of their paltry graveyard. So again, I mean, this is something we could potentially brainstorm back, but maybe we could use it. I don't know. I'm going to play it out. It's possible that they have some cards in their deck that, like Caracas or something like that we can waste later. So I am probably going to brainstorm next turn because I've worked through the cards that I know are bad. Okay, if our opponent gets a mountain, I'll be a little spooked. Okay, it looks like they may be on just pure blue-white. They're so far ahead. They've drawn a lot of cards. And we've basically put nothing on the table, but Bowmasters is really good against their deck. I don't think we're likely to be able to defend it. There's the back to basics I told you about. I'm trying to decide whether we just concede. I'm not going to concede. I do want to bounce this back to hand. As sad as that is. Now they can just pay for it. Okay. So at least we have a blue source that we can use to brainstorm to hopefully find our basic land. Or we could just draw a fetch. That'd be amazing. Okay. Sadly, I do think the best course of action is to, tap our Underground Sea forever. I mean, like, there is technically a single Brazen Borrower in our deck that can get us out of this. But I think playing an Orcish Bowmasters and hoping that's going to go all the way is not the right approach. Nethergoyf is just going to get plowed or Prismatic Ended. So we are going to go ahead and maximize the looks at fetch for basic land. And if we see two fetches, we don't see any. Well, that's easy. Okay, we got a basic swamp here. And I already played my land for turn, so I can't do anything. So I'm just going to sit here and wait. And we're just going to continue to get owned. I'm going to F6 just because there's nothing I can do. And this is a lengthy, even though we're playing a very aggressive tempo deck, we could go to time. They're playing very efficiently. Narset locks us out of a lot of things we want to do. It helps them dig. I'm not going to concede because we're about to have basic swamp. And at the very least, we can present, a Bowmasters. Now they have force. We could draw our own force. Right. I think at this point, we just start dropping Nethergoyfs off our swamp. We present a Nethergoyf a turn and make them deal with it. This is a 4/5. It's not nothing. They are playing a lot of basics in their deck. I would say Jeskai is perhaps the only archetype where, other than like monocolored archetypes, where I would ever consider playing more than one of each basic. And I mean, there are certain situations where maybe you want a second basic in like Stifle Knot, so you can cast out your Murktides or something like that. This is fine. We knew this was likely. We're just going to drop another one and wait till we draw a force, and then we'll attempt to Bowmaster this so we can get free. If we find a swamp, we technically have all the mana to cast everything in our deck except for Kaito. That's going to resolve. They can flip Tamiyo this turn, but we will have a Nethergoyf. And the dream is they force the Nethergoyf. But actually, they could run away with Tamiyo, and we'd be sitting there. Oh, they tapped their Tundra. Well, that's not good. Yeah, I mean, that's really bad for us. Probably just bounce our Now Spellbomb back to hand, flip Tamiyo. Then they've got like the true super friends, 3 Planeswalkers chilling together. Yeah. Bad News Bears. Baseball movie from like the 70s. But it basically just bad news. This is what it means. If you're curious, if you're like non-native English speaker, or if you're somehow unfamiliar with the Bad News Bears. Okay, so we're going to drop a Nethergoyf. They're probably just going to counter it. We can daze. We can actually daze and get this land back. I am in a daze here. Oh, I can't daze because freaking Teferi. All right, I'm going to concede. Yeah, we weren't winning that. Just be time efficient here. I think at this point we're like 1% or less to win, and that's when I'll concede. I won't concede if I'm 5 or percent, like even if it's a long shot, but there's no way we're getting through all this. Okay, so post board. I like bringing in anything that can hit. So Brazen Borrower comes in. We didn't see any red, and they had an opportunity to fetch red, so I suspect they're not playing red. Force Negation is probably better than a Fatal Push. Actually, it's probably better than a Dismember. Because Dismember, like, we don't really care about losing life. Dismember, maybe if they're playing pure blue-white, they may be playing Triumph. Oh, we can just take these Spellbombs out and we can keep our removal in. Spellbomb's not going to do anything in this matchup, I don't think. It's not worth keeping in a spell bomb for the Nethergoyf value. You don't want to have to draw through those cards. So yeah, we have to keep all our tempo cards, even though they're not very good here, because I don't have any reason to expect that they are playing. I mean, engineered explosives could hit a flip Tamiyo. We're never going to be able to get 3 colors, which is what most of their planeswalkers are. Yeah, I don't think we bring it in. Yeah, I just can't think of any subsort. Like, we're really cold to this matchup. This is pretty much the nightmare matchup. Like, Painter might be slightly worse. Painter may not be as bad for this deck because this has Nethergoyfs and non-blue threats. But, you know, we're playing against the true blue-white deck, and it's really just a question of whether we can get Orcish Bowmaster out and keep Orcish Bowmaster out. We're going to be aggressively fetching basics. This fetches... I do want to wait on Tamiyo, so I am not going to be fetching a basic for my first fetch. I am going to go ahead and just fetch... I think we play Nethergoyf turn 1. The next turn we can brainstorm. I just like getting stuff onto the table. It'll probably only be hitting for 1 or something like that, but it might absorb a prismatic ending that would later absorb Tamiyo. The reason I'm doing this is because we do have lots of blue and black spells, and we only have 1 card that can cast them. You can't be too afraid of back to basics. Okay, so it looks like we might get a swing in here. Okay, Thoughtseize is precisely the kind of card we want to rip here. I'm going to hold back the Brainstorm for next turn, because if I draw blue, I want to be able to use it in conjunction with Tamiyo. I think they're unlikely to have a Daze. They might have a Spell Pierce, but we can't play around that anyway. Okay, it looks like they're probably going to play Spell Pierce, which is an amazing card that I usually play, but I'm not playing in this deck. So it still goes to our graveyard and buffs our Nethergoyf. So it's not bad. Yeah, I'll just attack, and I do think I'll just play my Wasteland just so I have mana for Orcish Bowmasters, because it might be a while before we draw another land. So we do have Force Negation to stop, but all their big cards come out on turn 3. That's why they play so many basics, is they have to kind of have a smooth path to 3 mana. This is fine. Force Negation is probably going to defend Tamiyo flip. Or we could just defend Bowmasters. I do want to see if I can find a land. Yeah, because if I find a fetch land, that's really good. Okay, no luck. So we're pretty set back by this. This is pretty backbreaking. Daze may be relevant. I think I'm just going to put it like this. We're definitely not going to ramp out this Bowmaster next turn, so we'll do it like that. And we do have Force and Daze up, but we don't have anything else going on. If we miss our land drop, we're going to miss our next land drop most likely. That was an opportunity to get Orcish Bowmaster on the table. Okay, they don't have a play here. They could have some instant speed play. There's a high likelihood that we whiff if we brainstorm again right now, because we know that at least one of the cards is not what we want to see. I'm thinking that we just chill and we Bowmaster them, and then we have Daze. But I think it's likely that they have protection, and they probably also have a 4th land. Yeah, there's their 4th land. Okay, they're fetching. If they play something like Jace the Mind Sculptor, that's going to be the best case scenario. Teferi. So in situations like this, I think the correct thing to do is to go ahead and bait with the Bowmasters and then see what they do. I don't want Teferi to resolve, but if the Bowmasters resolves, then we can probably let it resolve, and then we can just Bowmaster again next turn. They may have Plow here, but we do have another Bowmaster. And normally I would be like, no way are we going to let Teferi resolve. In fact, I think it might be correct to go ahead and Daze here to force them to tap. And then they have to choose between, Teferi. Okay, so if they plus Teferi goes to 5. We can take all but one of the loyalty off of it. I think I'm going to do this. Okay, and they pay for it, and now we don't have to worry about our Bowmaster getting pinged. the smart thing for them to do is probably just plus. Okay, so they are going to get a turn cycle with Teferi out, which is troubling, but Supreme Verdict is absolutely something they could have here. I do think we need to act and go ahead and put this into play. This could be poorly conceived, but we are going to get Teferi down to 1 loyalty. And we're also going to make it very hard for them to do anything other than Supreme Verdict. And if they Supreme Verdict, they just had our number. I think it's totally possible that they have Supreme Verdict, but I don't think we let Teferi live. I don't think forcing would have been safe there. I want to hold force for something more impactful later because we just had like a clean answer to Teferi. 5 lands in play, plusing Teferi. They can Supreme Verdict at instant speed. This is Supreme Verdict. Back to basics is not that big of a deal. If we can kill Teferi, we can gradually, then we have force negation back up, and we have force. All right, I'm going to attack all at Teferi. I do not want them to be able to plow 1 and survive. It's not worth getting damage on them. Okay, Teferi's dead. We've got 2 interaction spells up. We're still dead to Supreme Verdict, but if they had Supreme Verdict, they probably would have cast it last turn. Well, they have it, and there's nothing we can do. It's interesting they chose to back to basics first. They can buy back Supreme Verdict if they want. This is probably the only time in their entire deck. Oh, they're getting back Plow. That makes sense. Yeah. So if we can find a path to a basic island, we have a game plan. Okay. Gosh, I think we have to Tamio and just protect her because we've got nothing else going on. I am going to do this because you don't want to give them the benefit of time. It's true we can't crack the clues, but if we find another source and we can brainstorm. But we know they have a Plow in hand. I'm going to force this. I'll just pitch one of these. They have Hardcast Force. That's a bummer. Okay. Not the card I would like to be forcing for sure, but I couldn't go after Supreme Verdict. Triumph. We just have to accept this. We do have answers to it, but I don't think we force it because we force it, we're so far behind. Like, even if we draw Island, we're not doing anything. And they still have access to all their mana, and they can still naturally rip good stuff. We have 21 life. We're going to use our life title as a resource. They can fill up on life too. It's not a big deal. Thoughtseize, not a great draw. I'm just going to attack, create a clue, and we're going to pass. And they're going to be able to, each turn, basically do a 10-point life swing. As I said on the channel before, I'm not a fan of this card because it doesn't just... there are lots of ways to remove it, and gaining life just doesn't matter that much, usually. I mean, it will make it so that even if we get a Murktide or something, but it's kind of a win more card. They've so totally already won this game, and we're 3% or something to win. That's a good rip. They do have a card in hand that we could potentially rip out of their hand. What are the odds that it isn't a removal spell? I'm going to attack first. And if they just play a removal spell, I'll cast this later. I mean, it might be a brainstorm or something, but we'll still, they could just brainstorm and see a land. I think if we cast this, we are taking a turn off of our own clock. I think we do it. Okay, it was a land, and we just lost 2 life, and we lost a turn cycle that we could draw. In retrospect, that was a mistake, but there was no way to know what was in their hand. But it would make sense, they just chose not to play a land. And that was good play on their part because I have to assume that they're holding another Supreme Verdict or something. Lorien revealed there's so many brutal things they could do here. I can't protect her. She's just not that great right now. Okay, so we've got 1 turn. I will probably daze to just pick up a land if they give me a window to daze something. All right, here we are. If this were a Murktide, we'd be dead by now. But I know that their deck doesn't support Murktide, but I just want to point out that Kaito, yeah, we're dead. Good games. Losing to Jeskai control, no huge surprise there. Despite I think you could argue the Thoughtseize was a bad play. I'm gonna see what we would have drawn, and then we'll have a little bit more information. My opponent said thanks for playing, which is super chill. Let's draw a card here. We would have drawn a Tamio, which is not... Yeah, eventually we would have drawn an island, but it would have been too late. So the Thoughtseize... Yeah. Wait, I don't need to concede the game. The game is over. Oh, wait. No, I do need to concede. Okay, cool. All right. So I feel like I had already conceded that. Okay. Whatever. Let's go to round 3. We're on the play against an unknown opponent in round 3. We're 1-1 after having beaten... Maybe Sneak and Show would be the best way to describe it. Or maybe just Show and Tell, Omnitell. And having lost to Jeskai Control. On the play, I think this is a fine hand. We can't grab a basic. If we just get on board with the Nethergoyf, that's fine. But if they have a wasteland, it's pretty bad. And they may just speculatively waste. I do think I'm going to ponder. But I am going to keep this. I think I'm going to maybe island ponder. Just to be sure that we don't get mana screwed. There's no way to be sure. But to increase the likelihood that we don't get mana screwed. We do have 5 fetches to find our basic swamp. But once we have the island under our belt, I don't worry as much about getting other duels in play. I think we shuffle this. We're just looking for a land here. These are great cards, probably. Like Bowmasters is most likely really good. My opponent says, "Oh, no way. Hi, good luck, have fun. I watch your videos to learn my deck." Awesome. Well, you just gave me a lot of information about what you're likely playing. And we got rewarded for that ponder. 5-4 says, "Hi, YouTube." This is going to go on YouTube. I only, if I completely scrub out or if I like go to time a bunch, I won't publish the video. But this one, I already have good vibes for them. We're going to let them ponder here. Looks like they're on a blue-black strategy, maybe ninjas. But if they are learning their deck from my channel, then we can be pretty confident that they're not playing blue-black Reanimator, which is a huge relief. By the way, if anybody's watching this, please don't give away any information about what you're playing, just to like compliment me, because like I can't help. There's nothing I can do. I'm going to use that information, right? I can't not know that they're likely on a blue-black tempo control deck. So I think we could double spell here. I think it's fine to Nethergoyf and to play out the Spellbomb here. If Spellbomb gets countered, that's not a big deal. I don't think I'm likely to need to actually force anything. The other option is we could go ahead and drop a Tamio. And if they kill Tamio with like a Fatal Push or something, then that grows the Nethergoyf and subsequent Goyfs. If they counter this, this also grows. Okay. And in tempo matchups, you almost always want to pitch a force to a force if you can. But I'm going to try not to force anything here. Baleful Strix would probably be something I would attempt to force. Baleful Strix is really good against blue-black tempo. Okay, so they may be on Beanstalk. Yep, that is a force, and they may daze this, but it's worth trying. You always force beans. Okay, we got there. That was great. That was exceptional. I think we just went from in the danger zone to really well off here. Now, they do have Murktide in their deck, and I can just cantrip through this. They don't have sweepers in blue-black tempo. So I think what I can do here, I'm going to go ahead and play this out. Then I'm going to go ahead and Nethergoyf. We're putting all our cards on the table here. Then we're going to go ahead and get rid of their graveyard and grow our Nethergoyf at the same time. The reason we're doing this is because Murktide is hard for us to beat. Triggers on the stack. We will play black. Draw a card. We got a land. That's not too bad. It's not a dead card. And when Tamio's out, land is fine. Right? And we're hitting them for a lot. Next turn, we're going to hit them for 8. So scary sequences they could have. Actually, I don't feel that worried about anything right now. They can cantrip into a Murktide. Murktide is the scariest card in their deck. But we have our own Murktides. But we only have really one way main deck of dealing with it, which is Brazen Borrower. We are going to bring Brazen Borrowers in for subsequent matches. Wasteland is fine. If they waste, that's actually great because we have so much momentum and tempo. and they may waste during our upkeep, but you should always waste like during their turn. Okay, this is great. So we can waste them off a color. I think I'm just going to do it during their upkeep. We're going to go ahead and swing in. They could have Bowmasters here, but Bowmasters is not going to save them. It'll chump. Okay, so we get the clue. So let's go ahead and see what they do. If they take it, okay, they are Bowmastering here, which is fine. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and crack these clues now. I think we cracked both the clues. My reasoning is we've got a lot of pressure, and Tamiyo is going to make it so their Bowmaster isn't even really able to attack in. It will be able to ping. They could Witherbloom Tamiyo. Now we have a force for Witherbloom. We don't have Daze protection. Okay. They may have to chump with their army. These 4/5s, these Nethergoyfs are freaking trucks, man. They're just like plowing. All right, let's plus. We've already played our land, the Wasteland. You always play before combat, at least my heuristic, unless you have some particular reason why you don't want to play out the Wasteland. They may actually waste our waste just to preserve their colors. This is fine. If they find another Orcish Bowmasters, that could be bad for us because they could put a lot of pressure on Tamiyo. Tamiyo is just going to keep going up and making it harder for them to attack in. We don't want to give them any triggers. Hedge Maze. They're getting some selection, but what I think in their situation, that from their perspective, they're probably looking for mana that doesn't come into play tapped. All right. So Tamiyo is going to protect herself. I'm just going to plus here. There's no way I'm going to minus here, even with the specter of... and I'm going to waste them off of black. I'm going to do that. Okay. They're dismembering. Let's see. Is this worth countering? I don't think it is. We can just bring him back. Okay. I don't know how many spells they have in their deck that they can cast. They could cast Murderous Cut. I am going to force the Murderous Cut here. Is that right? Yeah, I mean, it's going to do 5 damage probably. I am going to force it. They may force back. They made Daze to protect their Underground Sea. I probably could have wasted that before I put this on the stack. They Daze picking up Hedge Maze. I don't know that I agree with that play. Okay, we keep our 5/6. They are choosing to block. So they already used a Daze. I'm going to go ahead and waste this. And then I am going to bring it back just so we have more pressure. It's better to have multiple things that they have to deal with than to have those things be big. Nethergoyf. So we have to get rid of the spell bomb. Have to get rid of a land. We have to get rid of an instant and a sorcery. They're both 2/3, but they can grow pretty quickly. And our opponent doesn't use damage-based interaction. So by picking up the Hedge Maze, they've kind of doomed themselves to taking another round. Okay, good. So they do have another land. Good for them is what I mean. It's not good for us. But now they have black back up. We're not out of the woods by any means. But Tamiyo does give me hope. Witherbloom Command would be pretty good. They could gain some life. They could kill our Tamiyo. That would be put a creature type in the graveyard. Murktide. This is one of the things I was worried about. So this can hold the fort. It's worth noting that had I not brought back the Nethergoyf, my Nethergoyf would actually be bigger than this Murktide. So maybe that was a mistake. I am going to go ahead and brainstorm trying to find one of my 2 answers currently because I have a Dismember in the deck. Okay, we found the Dismember. I think that's probably game unless they have a force. But I'll keep the Daze up rather than the force because I'm not going to be able to keep force up. Oh, I could actually regrow force. I don't think... Yeah, it's so important that this resolves that maybe we do want to just regrow force and take a turn off with Tamiyo. So I don't want to pitch Tamiyo. I want to pitch Daze, most likely. Okay, so let's go ahead and minus. We're going to return force to our hand. Now we're just going to... I doubt they have double days. So I will pay a little life. Dismember is clutch. Okay, and they concede. Wow, that was great. I'm glad I brainstormed and found it. We weren't necessarily in danger there because we did have Tomio taking up, and they couldn't really profitably attack because they might die on the crackback. Yeah, Dismember was just the right amount of mana there. Okay, so Shoot the Sheriff comes in. I think we take out the Fatal Pushes. The only thing Fatal Pushes hits in their deck are Tomio and Bowmasters. And we have Bowmasters for their Bowmasters. We're definitely bringing in Borrower. So the key to this is respect Beanstalk and respect Murktide. The other cards just kind of like live with them. It's not the end of the world. Harbinger, they are a Harbinger deck themselves, but it's not necessarily bad to bring it in. Engineered Explosives can kill Beanstalk and potentially Bowmasters, but it's, they've already generated value by that point. I don't think that's the line. But we are on the draw, so that does lend credence to playing a more controlling game. I think I'm going to take this out, because I think Engineered Explosives is actually a card you want to bring in, and I think we're leaving the Spell Bombs in. My reasoning here is that this can kill a Flip Tomio as well, and kill Carpet, which is a card they're likely to have. I think Thoughtseize is great here. I don't think we make any other changes. Yeah, I don't think we're going to bring in Harbinger. Against like the 4-color Beanstalks, I think it's fine, but like Harbinger and then they're still casting their Murktides, I don't think that's impactful. Yeah, Engineered Explosives already showing up as a card worth boarding in. I'm glad that we have that in our sideboard. Really, it's there for Chalice. Chalice is like a total beating against this deck. We have 21 1-drops in our deck, and they're not 1-drops we want to side out generally. I think this is good. I like that Abundance of Land. They do have kind of a tempo bent to their deck. We have days for their turn 2 Beanstalk. Right. We're not going to make any early plays. We're just going to play land. It makes sense to go ahead and play out the Delta, especially now that we drew another one. We can shuffle away some excess lands if we need to. We want to fill up our graveyard, so we're definitely going to get a Surveil land here. They are unfazed by the abundance of wastelands in our deck, and they are going ahead and fetching their colors. Please Beanstalk here and let me daze it. Please let me daze this. Okay, so we're just going to get a basic island, I think. I think that's fine to grab a basic island since we have so many underground seas in our hand. And I'm just going to float, daze. They can't daze back. They can force, but that's a force that's not going to go on the Beanstalk itself. Like it doesn't, they don't get the card for it. And I think it's a mistake to burn off or to brainstorm there. I'm going to let it burn off. Okay, Wasteland's great. I think we just take a turn to waste them and hope that they don't have more mana, because that hits 2 colors. And we don't really have anything else we're doing this turn. We don't have a way to reasonably interact with another Beanstalk. Okay, so they did find this, but this is probably going to have to get a basic. Like they may have a whole lot of lands in their hand like we do. Another Brainstorm is fine. We've already shown them the island. I think it's fine to play it out there. I will probably Brainstorm for a force if they put another Beanstalk on the stack. I'll definitely Brainstorm if they don't have a 3rd mana and they try to do it. Okay, they do have a 3rd mana. Okay, they're just passing. This is great for us. They probably have Bowmasters, so now Brainstorm is kind of a liability. Nethergoyf's great. I think we just Underground Sea, and then if they want to try to waste us, that's fine with me because I've got plenty of land. I want to save this for when we can safely Brainstorm. If they put Bowmasters on the stack, I will go ahead and get a Brainstorm out of my hand. Okay, they're fetching. This might be Brainstorm. This might be a second Surveil land. Okay, so Bowmasters. Oh, it's a Brainstorm. Yeah, that's fine. So they're going to get a perfect Brainstorm here if they want it. They can even go fetch their basic island. It's worth noting that we are kind of vulnerable to Carpet not Carpet, but Harbinger right now at this exact moment. But we do have Brazen Borrower if we need to be able to fetch later. I don't think they would likely bring it in against us. This is fine. We'll hit this. Well, we can't Engineered Explosive this away, unfortunately. So they are going to have lots of mana. So that's bad. The good news is we don't have any soft permission on our hand that this invalidates. 2 green, Beanstalk. Okay, I'm going to try to find a force. This is If there's ever a situation where you need a force, it's when a Beanstalk's on the stack. If they Bowmaster here, that sucks. Oh, they're just dazing this? Yeah, that's fine. Deal. Okay, you get your Beanstalk. We're probably going to lose this game now. We do have engineers to blow it up. Engineered explosives, rather. Okay, another Nethergoyf, not the worst. We attempted to brainstorm, and rather than Bowmastering, they just... I mean, there's certainly possible that they have a Bowmaster. They probably play like 2... I play 4, but if they're playing 2 in the sideboard, like I told Pokemoki, I think that the instead of playing Baragoyf, he should just play more Bowmasters. That's my humble opinion. I think it makes sense to... Yeah, I want to wait. I want to wait on this brainstorm. I don't feel it's safe. I probably should have played out the Nethergoyf first, because if they counter it for some reason, then it buffs this Nethergoyf. I'm going to play out a Nethergoyf here. If they start forcing these Nethergoyfs, that is, you know, essentially card parity. So this will get a swamp, but this ship is already sailed. Okay, they're getting some value. Potentially, they're going to be able to shuffle this away. They opted not to use their carpet. Maybe they're hoping that I fetch another blue source, but I'm definitely going to fetch a swamp here. I don't think it's worth surveilling just to get a look and then giving them additional mana for the rest of the game. It may make sense to go ahead and blow this up. We'll see. If I draw a wasteland, I am going to attempt to blow up the carpet. No, I can't blow up the carpet because of the freaking Nethergoyfs. I have to explosives for 2. If they counter it, then we'll be hitting for more with the Nethergoyfs. They have the mother of all Murktides ready to come out. Double black. Okay, what is this? Fatal Push. That's fine. It'll be back. Okay. I think this is as good a time as any to go ahead and brainstorm. I don't want this land. It's a liability. They don't have Bowmaster mana up. Okay, great. So Murktide, not really what we want to see here. Thoughtseize is quite good. I think we put back Murktide and we put back explosives. Or no, land rather. Then we can Thoughtseize them. I'll just wait till my upkeep to fetch. I'm going to get the swamp. Thoughtseize puts the sorcery in our yard. Let's see what's in their hand. Oh, this is upkeep. Bowmasters is one of the best possible draws. We want to take their Bowmaster. They probably would have used it by now, but if they're like holding it for some blowout. Okay, they're forcing. I am going to go ahead and just Bowmaster here. I'm not going to mess around. Casting the first Bowmaster is usually a sin. However, they have Fatal Push. Murderous Cut. Oh no. But they do get the trigger, so we get an extra army here. So it's not the worst. So there wasn't really a reason to... Oh yeah. They were correct in doing what they did. Okay. So now they get the card. They stopped the Thoughtseize. They did go down a card to do that, though. Or, yeah, forced parity, actually. So they didn't go down a card. Our Nethergoyf is bigger. And we've got a little more attack power on the board. We can just bounce their Murktide out of the way several consecutive turns. That's kind of my game plan now. They find Lorien revealed. They do have mana to cast it. Double black in the pool. They could have double Bowmaster. Shieldred's Edict. Okay. That's not a big deal. Again, I'll bring them back. We are hitting them again. They're not doing anything with their mana. Now we have Force Up. I think I'm just going to start by swinging. I don't know that blowing up the Beanstalk is correct now. I do think this is a force because this stops our offensive. If they have their own force back, it's pretty big beating. Okay, we stopped it. Great. And I was correct. They were protecting. Well, they may have been protecting a Bowmasters on their side of the table. Okay, so I think we just bring back Nethergoyf. And we keep up Brazen Borrower. So we have, let's see, how many sorceries do we have in the yard? Just one? So we're going to have that. They're going to be 2/3. They're not very big. So instant, land, creature, sorcery. Okay, they're going to be 3/4, thankfully, because we had lots of creatures in our yard. Okay. And they can be bigger with the drop of an engineered explosives. If they spend a turn luring and revealing, that's actually good for us. Brainstorm. We want them to be casting cantrips and doing stuff that doesn't involve removing our creatures or casting a Murktide. They can't currently cast Murktide with the spells that they're presenting. My big fear is that they get a Murktide and they can force my Brazen Borrower. Okay, they're passing. They could have another Murderous Cut. Oh, they're just passing to get mana. Never mind. Now they got the mana for Murktide. So they did have it, actually. I just forgot about the carpet. Okay, they're going to get a cantrip off this Murktide. They are at least one island away from being able to put a removal spell back on top of their deck. That's a big Murk. We are likely dead if this borrower doesn't work. Let's go ahead and borrow. They force. They draw a card. Okay. I think we drop the explosives. We can't activate it yet. No, we have to drop the spell bomb. We can't activate it. If we activate it, it like severely hurts us. And we have to choose somebody. We don't want to exile our own graveyard, obviously. So we are going to have to make their Murktide really big. But if they attack, we can swing back. But they may have removal. We've probably lost this game. I don't want to concede quite yet. I think the card that really did it was probably Carpet. And I'm not sure if there was a better, if I should have engineered explosives. I didn't want to blow up Carpet. Oh, yeah, that's a good card for them. So this kind of shuts the door on Nethergoyf being able to kill them. Good news is we will be able to target ourselves here. Okay, Murderous Cut. Yeah, it's gigantic. Through the turn. Yeah, 11, 12. Then they draw. This is why Beanstalk is so good. BUG Beanstalk, really great deck. They can cut us off one of our mana. It does restrict their mana, but it shouldn't matter. The game's almost over. They get to draw a card here. They are just taking us apart. We don't have any answers left in our deck to Murktide either. So we just have to figure out a way to kill them this turn. Some miraculous series of draws. That's not going to get it. Let's go to the next game. All right, we got 10 minutes on the clock to their 14. We are going to be on the play this time. We didn't see anything that's surprising. I suspect they may be playing Pokemoki's exact list or my list. Still no reason to bring in Fatal Push. Didn't see a reason to bring in Harbinger. Actually, Carpet makes Harbinger even worse. Yeah, I think we're just running it back. Spellbomb would have been good like a turn earlier. I think we drew it right after they got the Murktide out. I can definitely envision engineered explosives being good. It just blowing up your opponent's Carpet and blowing up your two Nethergoyfs didn't seem good. There was probably a turn where I might have been able to invest the 2 mana and blow up the Beanstalk. This hand is very passive. However, I think it's a keep. We can ponder to get our graveyard fat. We've got double interaction potentially for Beanstalk. We do have to stop the Beanstalk. We have Dismember, which can stop a Baby Merc. It's not a great card. They're mulling. They are a Days Wasteland deck. I am going to ponder off of an island. This is amazing. Shoot the Sheriff. I actually forgot that we boarded that in, but that was a potential out. I think we take the Days now, and then we have like a lot of stuff covered, and then we can Nethergoyf next turn, and we can potentially waste them. But I want all these cards for sure. I will also Daze a Carpet and potentially even force a Carpet. Let's drop the Goyf. This card has been so good. All right. If they Fatal Push, I will Daze it. They're probably just surveilling, though. Unbeknownst to them, we have a Wasteland. Oh. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to Daze that. It's an imperfect Instep Brainstorm. They may just want to get it out of the way because they know we're playing 4 Bowmasters. Okay, please put a Beanstalk on the stack. I want to daze this so badly. All right. And if you want to force to protect this, that is okay too. All right. So our Goyf is slightly bigger now. I am going to get some additional damage, and I'm going to take them off black. That's more important than green. Even though green does cast Beanstalk, black is their removal color. And black is their Bowmaster color. And they can't Witherbloom, which would be really good here. Okay, they found a black source. This is fine. It's only a momentary setback. Bowmaster is the best draw on the deck. Kaito's not terrible. It's worth noting that even if Nethergoyf is, a 0-1, he can still get Kaito going. They're probably just going to spellbomb here. That's what I would do. Save some life. Unless they think that, they're spellbombing. Oh, wow, they're cutting? I think this was a misplay. I don't think that that's the correct play. I'm going to go ahead and just daze this. Let's see, I'm bringing a land back to my hand by doing this. I think I'm just going to cast it. I can still force if absolutely necessary, but I don't want to set myself back because this is kind of a tempo matchup. Okay, so we still hit for 3. They can still exile my graveyard next turn, but if we draw a land, I do want to be able to Kaito. I will force if they put a Beanstalk on the stack, but I'm not going to force to protect Nethergoyf. Well, if I don't protect Nethergoyf, it might be a while before I can bring him back. The escape mechanic on this is so good. That's what makes it such a great card. I think if it didn't have the escape mechanic, I probably wouldn't play it, but yeah, that's fine. So we've got a lot of removal in our hand, and our opponent is not presenting any threats. Can we draw a land for the Kaito blowout? Thoughtseize. Let's go do this. They Bowmasters here. I do have to force. Veil. They're protecting something. I think we stop it. This could be a bad decision, but we're filling up our yard. Yep. I do think that the take is Bowmasters, and they have like nothing going on over there. They could have Bowmasters and attacked my Goyf. That would have been a good thing to do. When they had that, like last turn, they could have definitely done that. I would have forced it, but it would have forced me to force it. They didn't know that, of course. They don't know that I don't have days. When you're playing against a deck like mine, it feels like they always have days. All right, they're one turn away from Lorien revealing. They can even Lorien reveal, go get the thing, and then they can Lorien reveal. But that is slow, and I do have somewhat of a clock. It's not a spectacular clock. Brainstorm is fine. If they drew Bowmasters, I just want to find a land and buff my Nethergoyf and maximize the amount of damage I'm doing here. Okay, Wasteland's phenomenal. I think what we do is we just put these back. These don't really do anything here. I want to draw the Dismember before I draw the Shoot the Sheriff. Is that correct? Currently, yeah, they can make it a 6/6. I think we want to Shoot the Sheriff first. Now I'm going to waste them off of this. So we're keeping them from being able to Lorien here. They can Lorien cycle if they want with his mana. But we're never going to let them get all the way up to Lorien mana. I'm going to attack. They would have Bowmastered the Brainstorm if they had it. I'm going to go ahead and ponder. I actually think this is a shuffle. We don't need these cards. No, I think that is... So I don't want the Dismember. I'm going to take the Delta now, and I'll draw the Sheriff. And we might find ourselves in a situation where we don't have a threat on the table if they find like a Fatal Push. Okay. So they're going to be very sad to see this Wasteland dashing their hopes of Loriening next turn. If we do that, actually, we can't... I'm going to attack first and see what they do. Yeah, actually, I do think that we need to just draw the Dismember. Because if they Lorien revealed... if they Lorien revealed, they're basically dead. Yeah. I'm going to cut them off land, though. Fetching is going to be painful for them now. If they fetch, they're dead on board. They have to find removal here. Okay, we're drawing Dismember, which is not great. If they have removal for this, they're still alive. I'm going to play this out. I do have a Surveil in my deck. I think they're dead if they don't push this now. This is definitely the end of the game. I can't think of a card that they could have that can get them out of this. Other than Fatal Push and like, yeah. Good games. I mean, the fact that we beat Beans and my opponent seems to be playing well. I think they may have made a few mistakes. Like they could have poked the Nethergoyf after they used the Spellbomb and forced us to force that rather than forcing the Veil. Maybe they were just holding the Veil up because they wanted to get like a blowout. Like veiling a Thoughtseize is about as close as you can get to a blowout, in my humble opinion. Besides the punt of me not playing my Orcish Spellmaster yeah. So first of all, compliments to my opponent for seeking out feedback. This is exactly what you should do when you lose. If you're playing against a friendly person who's like communicating with you, I didn't see any other real punts. I do think you should attempt to poke the Bowmaster or poke the Nethergoyf when he has 0 toughness, just in case I can't interact. There was a risk there. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if my chat actually made it through, but yeah, they're hopefully watching the video. Again, shout out to 5-4 with the double F at the beginning. And happy exploration of the Beanstalk archetype, which I think is still a very good archetype. I just think that blue-black tempo is a little bit better right now because all the top decks are Wasteland decks, and some of them are Blood Moon decks, and it's very hard to play a third color. I am going to continue to experiment with 3-color decks, but like I have no illusions that 3-color decks are as powerful as 2-color decks. Like Blood Moon and Wasteland really just kind of squeeze the format. And then, of course, Sowing Micah Spawn is just an absolute beating. If you're trying to play 3 colors and they can just take you off one of your colors and take you off 2 of your lands. Yeah. See you in round 3. Or see you in round 4. We're 2-1. Round 4, we're up against Vibu, who is known to play Chain of Smog combo, blue-black strategies, Reanimator. Green-black strategies usually. They're not usually a counterspell gamer. This hand has Force. It has turn 1 Tamio. I think we could turn 1 Tamio, and then we have lots of interaction up. But we're actually on the draw. I'm going to keep this, though. If they're on Reanimator, we've got the bomb, the literal spell bomb, in our hand, and that'll be great. Basic Swamp. Dark Ritual. Oh, please. Inquisition. All right, I get to keep my Force because you chose to save some life. I think Inquisition is not the right card to play in Legacy, in my humble opinion. It could be that they don't care about taking Force and they are a creature strategy, but like, or it could be that they already have the Forces or the 4 Thoughtseize and they also want to have more effects. But I think Durus is probably better if you're playing a combo deck. That art is sick. I've always loved that art. Like, look at that guy's face. He is not enjoying that at all. Stalactite. Yeah, this is fine. I think our deck can deal with Stalactite. And a pretty beefy Nethergoyf. Man, can we deal with it? We're going to wipe their graveyard, so Nethergoyf will be small, but he'll get big again soon. I mean, if this is what they're doing, yeah, I'm gonna trust in Tamio flipping and distracting. They get the Stalactite trigger. Stalactite Stalker is a really cool card, but after Nethergoyf was printed, it really restricted the usefulness of it. We're never going to be casting this Thoughtseize. This is just a bad draw. We're going to want to brainstorm it back. They do have there is some risk of them having Wasteland, so I am going to just play on the basic island. We're going to put a Tamio in play. She's not going to be able to block. Hopefully they don't have Fatal Push. If they Fatal Push, I'll probably have to Force because she's my meal ticket. She's like the only thing I've got going on. And really what I'm hoping to do is just slow them down until I can find my own Nethergoyf would be great. All right, we're taking 5. Second Swamp. Another Inquisition is unfortunate. They're probably going to take the Spell Bomb, but that does make our subsequent... yeah, I mean, they may take Brainstorm. I don't think it's correct to force there. Brainstorm is not that powerful but I think they likely take it. It is worth noting that so far they haven't done anything to turn on Stalactite Stalker descending. And I believe that is the keyword on it, right? If you descended, yeah. Okay, they did take the Brainstorm. I mean, that was a card that we could have used to fish for a land, actually. So maybe that was a good take. Maybe that was a force. Maybe I should have forced there. Maybe I should have forced that card I was making fun of. Okay. We are going to just play out this spell bomb and just sit here in the waiting room for lands while we get beaten down. Yeah. Mono black strategies. I will say the obligatory fair non-blue decks usually beat fair blue decks because they don't have to worry about combo. Like they're basically just scooping the combo, or maybe not scooping, but they're not going to have a good matchup against combo. We want to have a good matchup against combo and against other strategies. So we compromise by playing cards like Daze and Force of Will that are tempo negative. Yeah, I think if I'd forced there, I probably would have, had a higher likelihood of drawing into a land. Yeah, so that was a punt. This does allow me to crack a clue. Interesting they chose not to descend there. I think they should have. I think we do have to crack a clue here. And we're on like a 1-turn clock. We get Bowmaster out. We can chump for a turn or two. That's about all we can do. There is certainly a risk that they have a Bowmasters here. I think we have to force the Bowmasters if they have it. I'm going to go ahead and get the clue now just to minimize likelihood of them drawing Bowmasters. They don't have any card selection. Daze is a bad rip. Again, keeping the Brainstorm was absolutely the right play. Especially because if I'd flip her, yeah, she'd probably be dead by now, but she would have saved us probably at least 10 life. Force is going to be painful. Usually in cards like this, they have Troll of Khazad Doom. Yeah, they can waste our Wasteland, which makes it even harder for us to survive here, and it will cause them to descend. So I think actually we may just deterministically be dead. Even if we draw a swamp, we can't stop the Stalker and survive Nethergoyf. We could ping this and then double block it, which would probably be the play, and then we take 3 from Nethergoyf and we'd be on 1 for the rest of the game. It doesn't seem like a winning strategy. Then we just have to hope to keep drawing Bowmasters to chump. So they descend. So they're at 3 right now, but again, that's still within Bowmaster, ping, and double block territory. Okay, good game. All right, so that's on me. Again, I think that force would have been consequential. I think we were still unlikely to win this game with such an explosive start, but I didn't give myself the chance. It's worth noting that that Brainstorm, we did see all the cards that the Brainstorm would have drawn, and the best it would have drawn would be a Wasteland, but it's possible that we eventually drew into a Black Source. I probably should have drawn cards to see. I think if they're on this fully aggro strategy, I don't know about Toxic Deluge. I do know Shoot the Sheriff comes in. It doesn't hit Douthie, which is notable. Borrower definitely comes in. They're playing creatures that don't have an ETB trigger, Stalactite Stalker, that are worth bouncing back to back with Brazen Borrower. So Stalactite Stalker versus Brazen Borrower. Which alliterative creature is going to win? Okay, and then EE would have been pretty good there actually, and it does buff our. So I think we take out the Thoughtseizes. You never want Thoughtseize against this kind of deck, and that's a clean 3 for 3. I do want Toxic Deluge. It just seems like a really good blowout card if we get it early enough. I think Dismember is actually important because they may have Troll of Khazad Doom. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. All you J.R.R. Tolkien fans, feel free to correct me. J.R.R. Tolkien. J.R.R. Tolkien. Not George R.R. Martin. That's the other guy with the alliterative middle initials. Okay. Is it J.R.R. Tolkien? Am I crazy? Is that his name? Yeah, it is, with 2 R's. Okay. And I'm sure George R.R. Martin chose his pen name as a tribute. It would just be too big of a coincidence if that weren't the case. If his birth name actually involved that. Maybe his parents wanted him to be a fantasy writer. Okay, so Toxic Deluge. We have to decide. I mean, it is a creature aggro deck. It feels right. I think I'm going to bring it in and I'm going to cut a force. Because, like, very few of their cards we want to force. Maybe I cut a daze because, like, yeah, I think I'm going to cut a daze. I'm not going to have the luxury of cutting wastelands. Wait, on the play, we probably want to cut a force and, yeah, we'll switch that up on the subsequent. But yeah, if we'd like deluge there, pay no extra life, got rid of their board. I mean, first of all, we would have had land to do that. Would have had to have had land. I believe that's the grammatically correct way of saying it. We would have had to have had land. English, crazy language. Okay. This is a Toxic Deluge hand. Murktide is probably bigger than anything they can present. Snapkeep. We also have Path to Basics, although we don't have Murktide if we get Basics. I think we're not going to get Basics, though. I think we're going to Surveil. Because it fuels the Murk. Gets us closer. I will use my Flooded Strand first because that can only get Island, whereas Polluted Delta can get anything. All right. This is one of those matchups where we do have to worry about Dark Ritual into, what's it called? Opposition Agent. Thoughtseize. I think this might actually be a daze, and my reasoning is they're going to... No, actually, I think I let it resolve. And if they're scared of Murktide, by all means. They may take Toxic Deluge. That would actually be the ultimate, like, sideboard decision vindication if they take Toxic Deluge. Because then the best Toxic Deluge is the Toxic Deluge you never have to cast. Oh, they took a daze. Okay, well, that's fine. Let's go get our Surveil. I'm having a blast. I'm like so glad that we've been playing against fair decks instead of combo decks. Yeah, I'm going to get greedy and put that in the yard. They probably have 4 Wastelands in their deck, but that's probably the only mana denial they have. Brainstorm's a good rip. They may have Bowmasters. Bowmasters gets big. We just deluge it away. That's the game plan. I don't want to Brainstorm. I want to make them hold up Bowmasters for a turn. Murktide's going to arrive and he's going to be a wimpy 4/4 and die to Dismember. We need to get some more instances sorceries in the graveyard. I'm not in a hurry to get Murktide out, by the way. We're very much playing the control role even as even on the play. Our opponent may have taken days because they didn't have a lot of land. If they, are one of those players that overloads on, they're like, I am playing mono black. I can play lots of, take my Murktide. If you don't take my Murktide, you're crazy. Okay, good. Our opponent is not indeed crazy. I think this is a great situation to conceal information. I don't think this force is particularly strong now. Wow, a lot of bad cards. Wasteland's almost always bad. I think even though they're missing land drops, we could dream. I'm going to put this Underground Sea back. I don't think force is good. Yeah, I'm not going to get a force. I'm going to go ahead and just grab a swamp here. We're going to hope to draw something good. We might actually play out this Borrower to attack, but that seems really bad when they likely have Bowmasters in the deck. Okay, we drew another force. Yeah, I think I'm just going to chill. We're not going to be able to get an N for one if they don't have any creatures to kill. They have to play out some creatures. Vindicate me in keeping Toxic Deluge in my deck. I am at 18 life, though, which is a flush life total. If they ever multi-spell and put more than one creature out, then we will want to deluge it away. Might even be worth deluging like a single, what's it called? The goblin that doesn't look like a goblin. Stalactite Stalker. It's so fun to say that, by the way. Sorry, I'll quit rambling. Inquisition. You know what? I think for tempo's sake, I am going to go ahead and put this Borrower out rather than just have it taken away. Oh, I binned my island. I was like, where's my island? Yeah, I binned it. So we gave up on the basic life. You can have my Toxic Deluge. It would have most likely been a 1-for-1. I would love to find a Brainstorm. My goodness. Dark Rit. Okay. Are you going to dump a bunch of stuff? Barrowgoyf. Okay, that's scary. That's very scary. I think we might lose the Barrowgoyf. Okay, yeah, especially if we keep drawing like this. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to hit them. They're going to do way more damage when they swing back, though. That's unfortunate. I think we actually do play out these lands to work toward force. Yeah, I mean, within our deck, we've already used one of our brainstorms. Hardcast Force is not the worst. We need to very quickly find an answer to this Nethergoyf. And, technically Borrower would have been a solution to it, but they would have taken Borrower. Okay, let's see if they got anything. They got another Nethergoyf and a Stalactite Stalker. I think they probably take the other Nethergoyf. Maybe they take the Stalactite Stalker. They can cast it immediately. Yeah, we're like in serious danger. Now we can lose to the Stalactite Stalker. I don't have a way to get back the Toxic Deluge either. So you might be saying like, oh, you should have just forced the Inquisition and protected. Like I had no idea the dam that was about to break, frankly. Murktide still does a lot for us here. Shoot the Sheriff is definitely something I want to do here. There's no point in blocking. Yeah, I'm just going to shoot the Sheriff and I'm going to hope that they don't have another card. We're going to take 4. They're going to take 3. We're losing the race. You could argue that I shouldn't play out that land there. Oh, wait. I didn't play out a land. I played out the card we top deck. We got lucky, by the way. The only reason we're in this game is because of luck. If they have like Descend, Trigger, or something like that, we're in a very bad way. They have 4 cards in hand. I refuse to believe they're all uncastable cards. If they are, they know our hand. They have perfect information, so they shouldn't cast Inquisition of Kozilek against us. That is a card that could be jamming up their hand right now. Douthie, definitely a card that I said that I was worried about. I mean, I don't like to do this, but I think we actually don't crack the Delta because we may need the life. Murktide still saves us. Fatal Push on Douthie is not the absolute worst. I'm going to wait until they cast spells because I might need to force something even scarier, but I'm not in a good way. I actually need to wait until combat. No, because they get the counter at the end of the turn, but these are going to get buffed by my attempt to remove the Douthie. Also, Force requires us cracking this, which I don't think we are ever going to be able to do. All right, we have to kill this Douthie now, sadly. It's unblockable. It's going to do massive damage. Next turn, we're dead to these, unless we draw a removal. Bowmasters wouldn't be the worst because we could double block one, but we'd still be taking 3. They may have their own Bowmasters for Brazen Borrower. I can't fathom what's in their hand. There's the Merc we were looking for. Unfortunately, we're dead even with Merc. Yeah, this can't block. Otherwise, we could double block, but these have Menace. Good games. I mean, like, so far our losses have been pretty predictable, like losing to the fair black deck. Mono black aggro is a legit deck. Like, I don't think it's a tier deck, but it's a pretty good deck, and you should respect it. And it's definitely my play is in question as to whether I sufficiently respected it. Let's go to final round. We're 2-2. All right, final round. We're up against a likely blue-red Delver, which is not a favorable matchup for us, in my humble opinion, because we're, Thoughtseize against stuff, forcing, not good against them. However, Bowmasters is potentially good. We are on the draw. I think I am going to go ahead and open with Island Tamio, hoping that they bolt Tamio. I don't think holding back Force is good. If we draw a blue card, then this will be good because we can pitch something to Force. But my best aspiration for Force, if they are indeed on this deck, is on Blue-Red Delver, is to shuffle it away. Okay, they're not on Blue-Red Delver. Fatal Push. Thoughtseize, that's fine. Okay, they could be on what we're on. Or they could be on a Degenerate combo deck. I would love to have a mirror as a final round. Okay, they took Force, which tells me they're unfortunately on some Degenerate deck. That sucks. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and attack with Tamio. We don't need to worry about days. We can go ahead and ponder first. Bowmaster is not going to get us there, unfortunately. We're looking for days. These aren't good enough. Fatal Push, not the greatest. I am going to play out the Wasteland to protect our black source. I just refuse to believe that they would take force if they were doing anything other than something degenerate. They could be on Doomsday. That would make sense. If they're on Doomsday, they're not going to waste us. They've already seen the Wasteland, though. The only card they haven't seen is Fatal Push. I'm going to go ahead and, just on the off chance that they are, I think it's unlikely that we have to Fatal Push here. There is a world in which they Dark Ritual Doomsday, have everything, and then, okay, they're just going to waste our waste, maybe? Okay, Thought Seizing again. This is fine. We're not going to waste them, by the way. We want to use our Wasteland to crack clues. They are starting to take our Bowmasters, which may mean they have a Bowmasters of their own now. If they give us a chance to untap with this clue, I'm going to be so happy. Okay, they didn't waste us. All right. I'm going to go ahead and swing in. Trigger. We don't have to worry about Dismember taking our precious Tamio anymore. At least we're going to get an N for 1. So they know that we have this Underground Sea. We could just play it out. I think it's fine to waste them first and then to play it out. And then we have clue activation up. They should float. That doesn't matter. Oh, they're cycling troll. Okay, so they're on Reanimator. Okay, that simplifies things. Okay. So this is good because this keeps Daze live. I would much rather crack a clue here than... yeah, I'm going to keep Bowmaster up. Now the things they took make sense. Okay. Now they have their own Bowmasters up. This is Entomb. They already have an Entomb target. We have to stop the actual reanimation effect. Traxa. If Traxa resolves, the game is over. There's nothing our deck can really do to stop it. We are going to hope to spike a Daze here. We did not. Good game. I'll go ahead and let it resolve so we can see a little more about their deck. Even when it feels totally hopeless and the game is over, just go ahead and see. Like, okay, so they're Animate Dead. This looks very stock. I'm going to concede. I didn't see any new information. They didn't show us Bowmasters or anything like that, but I presume they have Bowmasters in. My understanding is most of the Reanimator decks after Frog was banned just took the Frog out and replaced it with some number of Bowmasters and Thoughtseizes. And obviously our opponent is playing some number of Thoughtseize because we got Thoughtseize twice. Lost on the play against Reanimator. And yeah, there wasn't really a lot we could have done about it. Cage is coming in. Their fair plan is terrible now. Like Frog was like a huge part of their fair plan. I don't think Forced Negation comes in. I do think Brazen Borrower comes in. Just like there maybe is some world where we can fight through what they're trying to do. Dismember. Oh yeah, Brazen Borrower does come in because of Troll. That's their fair plan, if you want to call it that. I don't know that they play Tamio. We wouldn't want to be blowing up our own Grafdigger's Cage anyway. What to take out? I think Fatal Push comes out. I don't think they really have anything to Fatal Push other than Bowmasters itself, which we do have an answer to on board. And Bowmasters doesn't hurt this deck as badly as it hurts the decks that I've been playing, like my 4 bird deck, or my 8 bird, like the 4 Icefang Coatl and 4 Baleful Strix deck. That deck gets hurt really badly by Bowmasters. This one, it's really just a minor inconvenience, usually. Sometimes we get locked out. All right, we got one of our... Turn 1, we do have a Grafdigger's Cage. If they force this, it's going to be unfortunate. No way I'm putting this back. I think with the current composition of our hand, we do go ahead and grab a Swamp just so we don't get disrupted. Dismember is great because it stops Troll. If they are able to somehow borrow this back. Grafdigger's Cage does stop us from bringing Nethergoyf back, but other than that, it doesn't have any deleterious effect on our deck. All right, Cage is in. That's good. Again, they probably have 2 borrowers. Maybe, I've seen people go up to like 3 or 4. That's fine. We had the benefit of being on the play here. They're going to see that we have a lot of interaction, like Fatal Push is terrible here. They took our Bowmasters, which makes sense. We have to find a way to close the game now. I'm going to just Undercity because we've got nothing going on. That gives away some information, obviously. That's going to stay right there. And what we're going to hope to do is Brainstorm and then put away this Fatal Push. It could... I think it's unlikely that they cast anything that really matters against us that can be hit by a Fatal Push. They could have Deathly Voidwalker. Engineered Explosives. We can't stop this, unfortunately. This is a good innovation for the deck. Wasteland is now a very good draw. Unfortunately, we can't both Brainstorm and Wasteland here. Yeah, I mean, if they stop this, then the dam breaks. I'm going to Brainstorm because... No, actually, this would kill my Nethergoyf as well. We could find a Thoughtseize, though. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and Brainstorm here. They already know about the Force. I don't think we're benefiting, and we're not going to be able to put all these cards back. Okay, so they're going to blow this up, but then we will be able to follow up with a Now Spellbomb. I'm going to put this back. It doesn't do anything here. I'm going to put Dismember back. It probably doesn't do anything. We just have to chill for a turn. But we do have Daze Protection mana, like if we need to force something. But they've already got their important permanent on the table. So it looks like we're not the only people who are playing Engineered Explosives now. No, that's not good. Yep. Nothing to Daze to get it back. I probably wouldn't do it anyway. We are going to draw dead for a few turns, though. They are pondering to try to find a second land. I don't think it's correct to force this. It's interesting they opted to waste us. I think with the Spellbomb in hand, we just have to chill. I don't want to force this. It's unfortunate that the Bowmaster's in our graveyard because that does represent something they can target. Definitely feeling on the back foot here. They probably found a land. Yeah, there's the island. They'll wait till end step to crack this, which is smart. And we'll have to force whatever their first line of assault is. Yeah, we're just chilling. We do have Daze Protection on our force, though. But they may have a force of their own. Yep, here comes the Engineered Explosives. Oh, Bowmaster. This is fine. I can just push it. I need to make sure that... yeah, I mean, I have both push and dismember if I really need it. Okay, Surveil. I really am just waiting for them to pop this Engineered Explosives. But now that they have this fair plan, they may not even need to. I am going to go ahead and attempt to push here. This could be a mistake. If they have like Entomb, they don't have the black mana to do it. So we did save some life there. Okay, Misty can get our island. I think that's the play. Could ponder and find some action. I think I wait a turn. My main reasoning is if they have a second Bowmasters, that's really unfortunate. I mean, we could just dismember the Bowmasters, I guess. Yeah, maybe we do want forward momentum. I'm going to go get my island. If they have the Bowmasters, I'll probably just daze it. Okay, Bowmasters of our own seems good. Land number 3 is unnecessary, but I'm not going to complain about it. I think we just take the Brainstorm here. So they don't see the Bowmasters. We will have to force like a Thoughtseize, sadly, because like Spellbomb is our only game plan now for stopping some sort of graveyard shenanigans. Okay, they're doing it. That was foreseen. So now they get a window where they can do stuff without having to worry about us. So we are forcing and dazing here. We're not going to stop an Entomb if that's what they're doing. Reanimating a Bowmasters. They're reanimating it from our graveyard. That's fine. I'm just going to ping it and it'll go back to my graveyard. I question that play. Now they're animating their own Bowmasters. This is a daze. So we could rip like a... what's it called? Brazen Borrower and just borrow our Bowmaster back to hand. That'd be pretty good. We know we're not getting that yet. If we just Bowmaster here, they could very well have daze. I think the safe thing to do is wait a turn and just put this Spellbomb out. Currently, they don't have any real good targets for it. Yeah, I'm going to wait a turn because we do have that fetch coming off the top, and then we'll have Daze Protection. It's very important that our Bowmaster resolves here. Troll Cycle. We've got that covered with Dismember, but we're running pretty low on life. Them getting another land is not a big deal, but they do have a better reanimation target now. I will have to spell bomb, and I will probably pay the mana to draw a card. Douthie, I'm going to be completely candid. I think we force this. My reasoning is it's just one of those cards that can go all the way. I mean, technically we can dismember it, but I'm really worried about casting dismember at this point. It'll be fine to cast it later. Like if they reanimate a troll, I might just let that happen. They are going to potentially have Hardcast Force up next turn. I think it's fine to go ahead and just Bowmaster now. Reduce the likelihood of them having Hardcast Troll. I would not want to have to hit my own graveyard if they have a reanimation effect, but I think I might do it. If it'll push on our Bowmaster, that's fine. We got rid of their Bowmaster, which is really our Bowmaster. That's the important thing. We have a chump blocker. It's not great. We have not used our Surveilling yet, so we have. Yep. I think we take this. Because if we find another Bowmaster, we can potentially beat it in combat. Or trade with it. Nethergoyf gets a 6/7. My goodness. Well, if I nuke their graveyard, I've got 5 types, so it will reduce the size. And then we can dismember it. That's so costly. My goodness. I don't like that at all. And also they can just reanimate it. And if we dismember, we're dead next turn. But they have 1 card left in hand. Okay. So I think the play is... Yeah, then it'll be a 5/6 because we've got 5 types in our yard. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to beat this. I am going to go ahead and do this now. I'm not going to wait. We need to draw an answer to this now. We're dead on board, basically. It sucks to use my one, card that I have to deal with them in this manner. Okay, we drew a Wasteland. Not a great rip. But it is Daze Protection when we're not dead. We're just almost certainly dead. They're going to gain a bunch of life. I think we do have to fetch. We could hold it. Wasteland does nothing here. Yeah, I'm going to play the fetch out. We're going to block. I guess we block Dismember. Actually, that's like probably the best play. And then they get 2 life. And then if they have some interaction for this, we just lose. They're unlikely to be able to put an enchantment in the graveyard at instant speed, though. We'll go ahead and let this happen, and then we'll dismember after it dies. In the damage step. After the damage has been dealt. Or wait, actually the end combat step. So that dies. They gain some life. We don't care about the life. If they have force for this, it's a disaster. If they just reanimate this, it's a disaster. They have so many reanimation effects, I'd be stunned if they didn't have one. Okay, we get another turn. This is good for us. Let's see if we can turn this corner. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. They're so close to hardcasting control. I think it does make sense to go ahead and waste them here. Sadly. We're going to take 2. They're 21 life. They've got, any reanimation effect gives them a Nethergoyf. Best thing we can draw Murktide and then have them brick for like 4 or 5 turns. Actually, even if we draw a Murktide, we still need like more cards because they have Orc Army active. If we draw Bowmaster, we can block Ping and get rid of it that way and still have a Bowmaster out. They have a second Undercity Sewers that they used. And they kept. Okay, so we're dead. There's no way we're surviving this. If they even, a Bowmaster, it's lethal. Good games. This deck is still legit. This deck is still a threat. Even with 4 cards in my 75, 2 main deck Nile Spell Bombs, I couldn't even win a game. I couldn't even win the game on the play. So, don't think that Reanimator is down out of the count. Let me show you. I'll show you a tweet from Cyrus, Crucible of Words. Hang on. All right. So here is the tweet from Crucible of Words, Goose Enthusiast on Twitter. Great creator. Decks in challenge top 8s. I think this is from like at least a weekend or something. 7 blue-black Reanimator, 6 red Stompy, 4 Delver, 2 Stifle Knot, right? And then 2 blue-black Tempo, and then you get like just a whole bunch of one-ofs. None of these are particularly rogue or interesting. Paradoxical Outcome, I haven't seen that, but it's just a combo deck in my mind. Like, I don't get excited about combo decks. I get excited about fair decks. Black-red Reanimator, but like clearly blue-black Reanimator is still good if it's the most represented. So it is still the deck to beat. Interestingly, Eldrazi only had 1, but that could be that it's a boring deck to play, and a lot of people just don't have any interest in playing it. Sorry if you're an Eldrazi stan. I'm just not interested in it. It's a powerful deck, but it's not a fun deck. There's not a whole lot of like really intricate decisions and complicated lines, in my humble opinion. But blue-black Reanimator is just like kind of like good and maybe a little more cerebral than the typical combo deck, but it's not interesting to me. But it is a very good deck, so I want to point that out. So I do think that you should be probably main decking Spell Bombs, and I do think that even though we got our butts kicked here, I do think this is like a good deck against the general field. We never got Kaito out a single time, which was sad. The matches that we lost, we just completely got shut out. We beat Beanstalk and we beat Dervuk. I can't remember what they were on. And then we lost to Reanimator. We lost to Mono Black Aggro, which I almost always lose to that deck, no matter what I'm playing, because again, non-blue fair decks usually beat fair decks. And then we lost to Jeskai Control. Those were the 3 that we lost to. And those are, this Reanimator deck, like, it is surprising that I lost to it, like that I didn't even get a game against it when I have like all those tools in my sideboard. But I don't know. If I misplayed, be sure to leave timestamps with misplays. But I feel this deck is fine. It's not as fun to play as value-oriented decks, I think. Let's get the list up here. Yeah. Kaito is great. I think Kaito is less powerful in this list than the dedicated Kaito decks. And one of the reasons we only saw 1 is because there's only 1 in the deck. I think the one game we saw him and we just pitched him to force. I don't think we ever got him on the table. He is really good against Jeskai Control. It's probably the best card other than Bowmasters itself against Jeskai. So I think everything felt tight. Some people are playing 2 Beargoyfs in their sideboard instead of playing these other cards. But like my thinking on Beargoyf is kind of like a win more card in the games where, like Beargoyf obviously was a huge threat to us in the final game, but like they had already won the second they put engineered explosives out, in my mind. Like that, we really needed that Grafdigger's Cage to stick if we wanted to be able to beat them. And even a mediocre ground game came together because we had to scramble to try to stop their unfair plans. So it may seem like, they never actually reanimated Atraxa in game 3. They didn't even entomb anything that scary. Like the entire game was warped by the possibility of them doing that. So that's one thing I'll point out to people that are relatively new to Legacy. They're like, what's the big deal? Like, it is a big deal. It is a big deal that at any moment they can entomb, reanimate, and the game effectively ends immediately for 2 black mana. So I don't have any feedback. Like this is the classic mana base, which felt great. Like there were maybe like 1 or 2 situations where the mana base let us down, but having the basics, having the wastes, it's basically free to play the wastelands, in my humble opinion. Like you should play 4. I've definitely considered like dropping down to 3. I've experimented with 3, but what would you replace it with? You don't want to replace it with another basic. You don't need another basic. You could argue that a second blue would help you cast Murktide in very specific situations. It would have been helpful in that back to basics game, but you're not going to face back to basics, frankly. Like back to basics, you're queuing into a player who's going to lose a lot. And they just got lucky and they played against you, who are likely to lose. But they're going to be losing to a lot of other players. Jeskai Control it had like a win rate of like 40% or something in an Eternal Weekend. Even though people play it, like you shouldn't count on getting back to basics. You should count on getting Blood Moon. And it's easy to play around Blood Moon if you are patient. In some of my previous recent games, I failed to play around Blood Moon. You need to play around it, but you can't really play around back to basics in the sense that you can just go fetch your basics later once it comes out. The back to basics player is rarely killing you within 2 or 3 turns of casting back to basics. They're almost certainly going to kill you like way later, so you still have time to go get your basics. I don't think back to basics is a great card because of that. It is a card that pitches to force. I think Harbinger is like way better in the specific situations where you need it. But there may be some back to basics stands who want to fight me on that. I encourage you to leave comments with support of back to basics and explain your rationale if you think it's good. So again, I hope this doesn't come across as salty. Like we lost the matches we expected to lose, except for the Reanimator. And I think this deck is slightly favored against Reanimator because we have the Nile Spellbombs. But the dice can fall any which direction. And we were on the play both of those games, I believe. Weren't we? So it is an upset for sure to lose against them. But part of it was we didn't know that they were on it. And like even when they basic swamped Thoughtseize, it wasn't the first thought I had. Like, oh, they're on Reanimator. But I think it is going to be going forward because it's clear the deck is back. You can keep taking cards away from it and it'll still just replace them with other good cards. You have to actually address Entomb itself. Entomb is the broken card that like even my blue-black Reanimator friends have identified, like, man, they need to ban Entomb. It's way too powerful. And even though Entomb may not have seemed that powerful, one of the decks we beat was, I beat blue-black Reanimator earlier. If you want, okay, let's end on a positive note. I'm going to show a replay of my game against blue-black Reanimator. It can be beaten for sure. I'm sorry, it was red-black Reanimator. All right, so first thing to note, I'm on a different deck. I'm on the Kaito with Green Splash deck, which I enjoy playing a lot more than the blue-black tempo. I think blue-black tempo is kind of... I've played a lot of it, and it's just not as exciting as the value deck. So here, they just come right out of the gates with Faithless Looting, and you always force that initial volley. This is a different deck than the deck we just lost to, by the way. I just want to emphasize, this is like a more glass cannon-y one, but I wanted to end on a positive note and show you how I kind of dismantle these types of decks in general. It's harder to do it against blue-black because they're more resilient. But here, second Faithless Looting, they discard the Atraxa. I have to let that resolve. I don't have a second force effect. They unmask me, they take my force, then they reanimate, and the game functionally ends. But I always look to see what they have to get a little more information from the deck. Don't ever concede with Atraxa on the stack. Let her trigger resolve. Game 2. So now we know what we're up against, and that's half the battle. Knowing is half the battle. Isn't that like a G.I. Joe thing? Boom. Grafdigger's Cage. And usually this ends the game. We got 3 Grafdigger's Cage in the sideboard for this deck. And they Thoughtseize us. We're able to start just cracking clues with Tomio. And the way you beat blue-black Reanimator is not through like Murktide or whatever. And this deck doesn't even play Murktide, the deck that I'm playing right now. It just chips away at them and just outdraws them with Tomio and finds disruption faster than they can find ways to win. Now here, I think they Thoughtseize me and may take the Spell Pierce. I can't remember. I opted not to go off of protection here. That was an important consideration. I could have easily just put Kaito in and done it, but like that's how you lose, in my opinion. You lose by getting greedy and dropping out of protection. And now look at this incredible collection. We don't even have to watch the rest of the game. Like it's just a slaughter from here. My opponent refuses to concede, even though I'm like so far ahead. It's not even funny. They get Gristlebrand out. Kaito just stuns Gristlebrand. I don't think my opponent realized this could happen, or they were like maybe trying to play the clock, but we've got plenty of time. And a stunned Gristlebrand when there's a Bowmasters out might as well not be a Gristlebrand. Yep, and they eventually succumb to their wounds. Next, we jump over here, and we are going to... This is the game 3. We have to win on the draw, but we got double Cage and Thoughtseize. So as long as, and this was a calculated decision, as long as they don't win, as long as they take at least one turn to set up. Now, black-red Reanimator can win turn 1. They can just Dark Ritual, Doomsday, Thoughtseize you so they can win with protection. Thoughtseize you. But I was like, even if they do that, I have a second Grafdigger's Cage if they Thoughtseize it. And they're going to have to not only Thoughtseize it, but they're going to have to also have specifically Reanimate or a Petal plus Animate Dead. So that was one of the reasons I kept this hand, is redundant Grafdigger's Cage. And Cage just cannot be beaten by them. And they do, sure enough, have Thoughtseize. They don't have Petal into Dark Ritual, which they would need because they would need it into and Reanimate. And as you can see here, like the game effectively ends now. They are able to Thoughtseize a blue card out of my hand, but now I've got the ability to drop a second cage, which further insulates me. They do start just entombing random jank that they don't want to draw. And yeah. And from here, things go really well. So I love playing against pure combo decks because I feel like it's a good matchup for us. I feel like playing against like a tempo combo deck like Blue-Black Reanimator. I want to argue the reason Entomb should get banned is not because of decks like the deck that I just beat. It's because of decks like Blue-Black Reanimator that can basically play like a fair plan like they did with Bowmasters and, Deathly Woodwalkers and stuff, and are just constantly threatening this incredible, difficult to stop combo that just ends the game, right? Like they have this powerful I win button in their deck, and it's not fun because no matter how far ahead you may get, there's still that Sword of Damascus, Sword of Damocles hanging over your head by a thread. And you can be like the king, you can have the crown, you can be the most powerful man in the kingdom, and all of a sudden that thread snaps and the sword plunges right through your head, right? That's how I kind of envision it, like one of those crazy impilations from, I'm trying to think of like random shows. I'm sure they've done it in like Game of Thrones and stuff. I'm sorry to mention that if that is a traumatic memory for you. Okay, so anyway, I figure if we're going to mention George R. R. Martin, we might mention his, book series that he'll probably finish in the next life. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it there. I think this is fine. There's definitely like good reason to be playing Nile Spellbomb. And if you're playing Nile Spellbomb, it's hard to not play Nethergoyf because they just synergize so well. It just feels so wrong. But here's what I'd like to play instead. And the next video will be me playing this. Okay, I give you Blue-Black Control, I guess. So this is still Kaito. In fact, we can go up to 2 Kaito. Kaito's really good. And 4 Strix, this is really good against Delver. I'm not sure about keeping a main deck Thoughtseize. Like, I think it's totally defensible to just move this to the sideboard and then move maybe this member to the main deck. You don't really want to be doing damage to yourself. The whole point is to stay alive. So one thing we could do is we can get cut and Fatal Push because I take out the Murktides. Okay, let's just go through the threat suite. So we have 2 Kaito. We have 2 Borrowers. I like Borrower a lot right now. Borrower's really good against Blue-Black Reanimator. Obviously, it is a way that we can get problematic permanents out of play. It's good against a lot of other decks. Now that I think of it, it may just be a one-of, but I like having lots of creatures. So the main thing is we have 2 Snapcasters. And Snapcaster can get back Spell Pierce, it can get back Stifle, it can get back a Fatal Push, or a Ponder, or Brainstorm as always, but it can also get Murderous Cut because we're not using our graveyard for anything other than Murderous Cut. Snapcaster is also good because it can flashback Surgical, basically for free. You can pay 2 life and you can Surgical. Because we have the 2 Nile Spellbombs main deck, the 2 Surgicals, we potentially have like up to 6 post-board graveyard hate effects. So the main thing is just wanting to keep the mana base simple and not go into green because we found that green is problematic. So like I'd probably do like this. I think, sorry, not 2 Stifle. I think we want like a second Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce is really good right now, and Spell Pierce is even better when you have Snapcaster. The main problem is we have to dedicate 2 slots to Nile Spellbomb because Reanimator is so strong, and because there are also like this is really good against Oops. It's really good against. It's okay against Cephalid Breakfast. It's okay against a lot of these decks because you can just park it there and kind of not stop them because of Memory's Journey, but you can slow them down considerably. And then I want to go back up to 4 Tamio. She's so good, and she's good in a controlling shell. So we have these 4 Wastelands, but we don't necessarily need to use the Wastelands. We're not like Days is not getting worse as the game goes on. It is, but we've only got 2 a Days. So the big innovation is going down on Dazes. We're keeping the mana base at 19. I think that's fine. But we're bouncing lands back to our hand less frequently. And as a result, we can develop with Baleful Strix more frequently. We can just more reliably get Snapcaster to do something. We can more reliably cast Kaito. So that's kind of my plan. I think by going to just blue-black and not having a green in the deck, so we don't have to worry about getting screwed off colors as much. We don't need to go all the way up to 20 lands. We can stay at 19 lands, and then we can still play Daze, which we're not playing at all in the version that has green. And we can still get value creatures. It's just Snapcaster instead of the Icefang Coatl. I do think Strix is amazing right now, as long as your opponent doesn't have a Bowmasters out. I do think that Bowmasters is in enough decks now that we probably can't safely use the Icefang Coatl. We're just exposing ourselves to too much risk through that. But with Baleful Strix, I think we're okay. And the other thing that's great about this deck over the blue-black tempo deck that I just played is it's much less vulnerable to Chalice of the Void. So Chalice of the Void shuts down a lot of cards in the blue-black tempo deck right here. Like, shuts down Thoughtseize, shuts down Nethergoyf, shuts down our removal completely, basically, other than the Dismember. It shuts down Tamio. And then it shuts down our cantrips as well. And it even shuts down Nihil Spellbound. So this doesn't have any way of dealing with it, other than a single Brazen Borrower. One of the reasons I think 2 Borrowers is justified is Borrower is something that you can just flash in instep if you have a Kaito and you really want to get it into play. Just, have like an attacker that's likely not going to get blocked. Boom, Kaito comes in, and then you've got it back in your hand, and you can bounce something later once you have Kaito out and you've got a clock. I think that a huge part of this deck not being vulnerable is that we can diversify the removal a little bit in having a Murderous Cut. This is also a good card against, you can't always reliably turn on Revolt, and having Cut changes it up a little bit. Also, this does hit lots of other creatures outside. I don't think we're going to go back to casting Snuff Out. I was excited about Snuff Out, but seeing that Blue-Black Reanimator is still so strong, I don't think we can play Snuff Out. Snuff Out is really good against the Nadu decks. Going back to Cyrus's tweet, though, here's his tweet. I don't see a lot of Nadu in here. There's a breakfast. Oops, I hit the wrong key. There's a breakfast, and that's it. Just a single breakfast out of, this is probably like at least 20 decks. So yeah, maybe Nadu is not the threat that we need to worry about, and maybe we really do need to worry about Blue-Black Reanimator. What usually happens is challenges is where people bring their real game face, and then they experiment in the leagues, which is where I usually play, because I don't want to wait around all day in between rounds. Like, I like leagues because I can sit down, I can play, I can get out. But if you want the real competition challenge, I do have some videos of me doing challenges. It's just that they cost a lot of tickets. I'm looking forward to the next big one that I can use these points here. Let me show you. So when you play a lot of leagues, you get these showcase qualifier. I've got like 50 of them or something, and 54. And I want to use these to be able to play so I don't have to spend money. And so I'll do this occasionally. If there's like a showcase challenge, I'll do that because I'm not having to spend money, and I can I apologize, I'm giving like way too much detail at the end of the video, but I feel like if you're watching this long, maybe you do care about my opinion. So I'll go ahead and continue talking. So I think what's going to happen is seeing that Reanimator is really dominant in the challenges. First of all, people are going to start playing main decks Bell Bombs again, and we're going to wait and hold our breath. And maybe one of these ban announcements, they'll finally ban the actual problem card, which is Entomb. Not that I think that Frog was fine or anything. I don't miss Frog at all. I enjoy being able to experiment in Frog's absence because I don't feel obligated to have 4 Frog in every deck I play. I do feel obligated to have 4 Tamio in every deck I play, or at least 3. She's insane. But I'll be amazed if she gets the X, but she may get the X within the next year. I think I did predict when both Frog and Tamio were printed in Modern Horizons 3. I said within the span of 2 years, both of these cards will be banned. So we'll see whether that happens. We've still got 18 months on Tamio before that prediction is wrong. But I like this type of list because lots of ways to trigger Kaito. Kaito is really good against control decks. One of the problems we had was Jeskai control. There's just no practical way that Blue-Black Tempo can beat Jeskai control. It just ignores all the different angles that you're attacking on, like Wasteland. It ignores his days. They just exile your cards, so you can't even bring back your Nethergoyfs and stuff. It's pretty brutal. But this, I think, is actually a reasonably decent matchup against even, Jeskai control, the most control-y of the control decks. And the reason for that is you're getting a 2-for-1 off Baleful Strix, you're getting a 2-for-1 off Orcish Bowmasters, you're getting a 2-for-1 off Snapcaster. Postboard, you can remove your removal, and you just take out the Fatal Pushes, you bring in the Thoughtseize, and then suddenly you are a really good anti-control deck. Thoughtseize is good against control, and it's good against combo. It's just bad against aggro. And I do think that it's possible, like having this one of Stifle. This is going to be good against Eldrazi, of course, but it may actually be good against like Delver strategies, because you might be able to stifle fetch activation, and they just didn't keep a lot of removal, or they were expecting to be able to go get a basic, and then you denied them that. This is just like a gotcha type card. There's an argument for playing like one Stifle and 1 Daze in pretty much every blue list you play, because you just get so much value out of the first one. I'm not sure how much value we'll get out of playing the second Spell Pierce. I'm not certain that I want to be playing this, but we do have a slot, and I don't know. I mean, it might be correct to just go back up to 3 Dazes. Let's do that. So this is another card that gets hit by Chalice. We have plenty of cards that we're going to be able to return with Snapcasters. We've got 2 Snapcasters here. I feel like this is fine, and then we just have to make one last change to the sideboard. So against Eldrazi, the 2 matchups I really care about are Blue-Black Reanimator and Eldrazi. Let's talk through this. So we've got 4 Consigns here. We've got 1 Harbinger. So that's 5 slots that come in for sure. Cards that come out against Eldrazi, 2 Nile Spell Bombs for sure. Some number of Dazes. Daze is just not particularly good. They have to get really greedy. I think Spell Pierce absolutely comes out against Eldrazi. It only hits like 2 cards in their entire deck, basically. They're important cards, but there are also cards that Daze can hit. So you probably leave the Dazes in, hoping that they get greedy and that you can Daze something. And then you take out the Spell Pierce, you take out these 2. You might take out Snapcaster just because the odds of you actually having the land to be able to do something with it. Brazen Borrower is also a card that's really bad against Eldrazi, but it is good against Chalice of the Void. So are there 5 slots to make for Eldrazi? Because my thinking is, okay, we can either remove this Dismember, but Dismember comes in against a lot of fair matchups, and it does come against Blue-Black Reanimator because it does efficiently dispatch Troll, and it is a good card to be able to snap back. So I think what you could do is maybe you take out one of the Consigns and then you just have 4 slots for Eldrazi. That is a little riskier. I've seen a lot of Blue-Black Tempo decks where actually playing double Harbinger, but I've also seen a lot of Eldrazi decks that are playing like Talisman of Curiosity, which essentially stops Harbinger from being all that great. I don't personally think going up to double Harbinger is good. I've never been that impressed with the card. It's okay. Sometimes it saves me against lands, but like now with Blue-Black Reanimator and Eldrazi being firmly at the top, I'm not thinking that lands is going to be like that great. Like lands, Eldrazi has got to just completely obliterate lands is my kind of theory crafting on that. Like I've never played lands against Eldrazi, and I've never played Eldrazi period, but I can't imagine that's a good matchup for lands. Eldrazi is a bad matchup for basically everything except I think Blue-Black Reanimator has a pretty good matchup against Eldrazi, and maybe that's one of the reasons so many people are playing Blue-Black Reanimator is it has a positive. So maybe we keep this. This is the other card that we could cut the Dismember. I'm just not sure about it. We could cut the Surgical and then go down to 3 Reanimate effects. Like the first Surgical is way better than the second one in terms of the marginal value that it gives. So yeah, maybe we do that and we just have 3 anti-graveyard. I don't know. That seems dicey to me. But then again, we do have like Baleful Strix to like further lock down their fair plan. I don't know. I'd probably run it like this, see what happens, because we are bringing in Dismember, which does stop the Troll. But keep in mind, Nile Spellbomb is not nearly as good as Grafdigger's Cage. The reason we're not playing Grafdigger's Cage here, Grafdigger's Cage does stop Snapcaster Flashback. So yeah, I think we could probably do it like this and see if we run into, I don't know. I mean, technically Thoughtseize also comes in certainly on the play against Blue-Black Reanimator. So we probably could just say this is good. I don't know if 3 graveyard anti-graveyard cards is enough. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this kind of like in real time brewing process and me deliberating over these things. I think about this stuff all the time, and I was just like, how do we get like incrementally like slightly more value out of this? How do we just slightly increase our matchup against all these meta decks? And I think the way we do that is probably this dramatically increases our anti-control. We did go up against a control deck. This doesn't do anything for our blue-black aggro.
Actually, Baleful Strix probably actually is pretty good against blue-black aggro. So I do think this improves our blue-black aggro. Or I'm sorry, our mono-black aggro is what I'm thinking. I do think this is a good matchup for the mirror, like the blue-black tempo, because we're basically just a slightly bigger version of them. We still have the basics. We still have the disruptive elements, but we also have Kaito, which if we get to enough mana, solos their deck essentially, like stuns their Murktide and hits in, and they're only playing one Kaito, we're playing two, and our deck is built to basically synergize better with Kaito through these Baleful Strix and these Snapcasters. Snapcaster is a big mana play, and it's quite commonly just going to be a clunky card. It's almost certainly going to be the card we pitch to force. They are going to have Murktide, which we don't have. So we don't have a Murktide to potentially stand up in front of their Murktide, like the bigger Murktide approach. But I do think that Kaito kind of replaces Murktide in many regards. I don't necessarily think you need to play Kaito and Murktide in the same deck. And given the choice between playing Murktide, again, which is a card I've been playing basically ever since I got back into Legacy like 2 years ago, I've been playing Murktide basically nonstop. I'm much more excited to play this. So like in a vacuum, I would just prefer to play my my BUG Kaito deck. Like that is my favorite deck to play. It is the most fun. And my record with that, I've had some kind of rocky, I think, I went 3-2 earlier, and I think I've gone 2-3 with it before, but it is a good list. But it does get randomly color screwed from Wastelands and stuff like that. So like in a vacuum, I would prefer to play that, but practically based on this meta information that I'm getting from reading, just analyses of the meta and watching, I watch a lot of videos of Legacy, and then of course, like playing a whole lot of leagues. I'm playing like basically a league every day right now. I'm definitely thinking that just being able to play two colors is great. Giving up Witherbloom is a bummer against Chalice decks. Giving up Ice Fang is a bummer against like a lot of the more aggro decks. But actually, I think this will be better suited against Eldrazi just because you won't have to worry about them destroying your third color. I don't think Ice Fang is so good against Eldrazi that it's worth exposing yourself to more in a color screw risk. So that's where I'll leave it. Until next time, be excellent to each other and party on.